It's all Lane Myers. Lane Myers and Lane Myers today. He launched an email campaign for attention from nearly anyone, then goes to court and capitulates, apologizes to the court, and says he'd take a plea deal if offered. What is going on with Lane Myers? All this and not much more on this edition of Auditing Insanity. Hello, and welcome to an all-Lane Myers edition of the Auditing Insanity Newscast for Tuesday, April 1st, and Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. I'm AI Johnny Jones, and I'm here to take you through the latest Lane Myers news, as there's nothing else going on. Since you know what we're about to talk about, let's dive into it as we ask you to focus on: will fans mass form letter campaign free Lane Myers? YouTube viewers, a copy of Myers' letter can be found by following the text link in the description of this video. What is playing out to be a desperate move that sounds like an April Fool's gag but isn't, saw Lane Myers released a form letter via Josh Gray's This Is a Public Service YouTube channel Monday night with a list of media and political contact for his fans to spam just hours before his scheduled court appearance to determine if he can live stream from jail. The list of contacts targets all the local news stations in the Tucson area, the Arizona Attorney General, the Board of Supervisor, various officials at the University of Arizona, United States congressmen and senators, state senators, and the prosecutors in Myers' various legal battles. Myers' list does not contain his victim's name or contact information. Gray's recent postings on behalf of Myers have told his fans not to contact the victim and warned that they could face legal charges if they made contact with her. The letter itself has been described by readers as a rambling mess in which Myers names his victim and accuses her of making false allegations against him, which resulted in the injunctions that led to his jailing. Myers states in the letter, "There is no evidence of true threats, incitement to violence, or any other established First Amendment exception." Myers continues, "Mr. Myers has never posted Ms. Walker's personal or home contact information. Everything he has posted is publicly available information. All of the charges against him stem from Mr. Myers' constitutionally protected right to redress his government." The letter excuses Myers' alleged actions against his victim by restating that Myers is a journalist and that the victim is a public figure. It asks his potential readers to rally against his treatment. It states that these criminal charges have Mr. Myers potentially facing years in prison, depending on how the jury verdict and Arizona's sentencing laws interact. And under the state's legal theory, which now 2 courts have adopted without reaching the constitutional issues, Mr. Myers could theoretically continue being charged indefinitely, even from prison, should he indirectly contact the victim or directly or indirectly encourage third parties to contact her. Myers continues with a statement, "This is an absurd result that cannot stand. Mr. Myers is not receiving justice through the judicial system. The judicial system is repeatedly and blatantly abridging Mr. Myers' constitutional rights to freedom of speech, freedom of press, and freedom to petition the government, simply because Mr. Myers criticized government actors." As promised, Myers has also begun to release what he claims to be a treasure trove of his recordings of various public officials, federal agents, and police officers to Gray's YouTube channel. Monday's call was with Pima County criminal investigator Mac Dunham. Myers' letter concludes with a call to action to its intended reader. The Arizona harassment laws, as they are being applied to Mr. Myers, violate both the First Amendment and the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution. As a United States citizen, I am extremely concerned about this situation. I am concerned not only because Mr. Myers is currently detained indefinitely for speaking publicly about public court proceedings involving a government employee, but also because the ability of all Americans to redress their government is being threatened. The letter continues by stating, the state cannot be allowed to prosecute free speech in order to silence speech it does not like or that criticizes it. In fact, the fundamental purpose of the First Amendment is to protect speech that is critical of the government. The right to criticize and redress the government is one of the most fundamental rights in America. Yet a man is currently jailed and facing the threat of years in prison for doing just that. The prosecution of Lane Myers is chilling my First Amendment right as a citizen to criticize and redress my government. This is unacceptable, and I ask that you immediately take action to investigate and correct this situation. It's unclear how effective Myers' efforts will be. He's currently being held without bond in the Pima County Adult Correctional Facility. A hearing to determine if he can livestream from jail is scheduled for 4:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll be simulcasting the hearing on our YouTube channel. Myers picks up new charge, wins March fundraising. YouTube users, please click the text link in the description to see a full breakdown of campaign total for the month and the year. YouTuber Lane Myers took first place in the crowdsourcing race for March, but had some bad news at the start of April as he was indicted on a new charge before his Tuesday hearing to determine if he can livestream from jail. As expected, based on the mid-month tallies, Lane Myers dominated the crowdsourcing with a remarkable turnaround based on his legal problems that have seen his account go from negative $5 for his January total to winning March with an over $3,000 take. But not all is good for Myers, as we have some breaking news. The YouTuber just had a new charge added to his second batch of charges, which previously included a Class 3 felony, stalking charge, 2 more aggravated harassment felony charges, and 2 misdemeanor intimidation via electronic communication charges. As of this morning, another Class 1 misdemeanor was added. 13-281082 interfer W/judicial proceeding M1. The definition of the statute reads, 13 to 2,810, interfering with judicial proceedings, classification. A person commits interfering with judicial proceedings if such person knowingly 1. Engages in disorderly, disrespectful, or insolent behavior during the session of a court which directly tends to interrupt its proceedings or impairs the respect due to its authority, or 2. Disobeys or resists the lawful order, process, or other mandate of a court, or 3. Refuses to be sworn or affirmed as a witness in any court proceeding, or 4. Publishes a false or grossly inaccurate report of a court proceeding, or 5. Refuses to serve as a juror unless exempted by law, or 6. Fails inexcusably to attend a trial at which he has been chosen to serve as a juror. B. Interfering with judicial proceedings is a Class 1 misdemeanor. A Class 1 misdemeanor carries a maximum jail sentence of 6 months in jail and a $2,500 fine. We can only assume that these charges are from Myers' attempt to have his fans brigade the judge last week, ordering them to call the judge's publicly available phone number until the judge either quit his job or removed the number from the internet. Myers' antics earned him $125 in new donations for Monday, with our own ongoing expenses campaign coming in second place with a $70 take. Those results mirror both the monthly and year-to-date results, so far with Myers taking in $3,252 for the month, bringing him to $3,267 for the year. Our ongoing expenses account brought in $875 for the month and now sits at $1,755 for the year. Craig Hendry's To Support Craig's Work Fund brought in nothing for the month, but slipped to $1,475 for the year. We do have a correction to make, as we previously stated that Hendry hadn't had a donation since January. This turns out to be untrue, as he brought in $65 for February. We apologize for the error. Jumping back into monthly action, Sean Paul Long Island Audits Reyes raised $235 for his To Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption campaign to place in third for the month. Christopher Denver Metro Audits, Cordova placed fourth with a $105 take to his Defend DMA in the Fight Against Corruption and Oath Breakers campaign. Michael Blue Bacon Piratini came in fifth with a $100 donation to his cover defense against a frivolous lawsuit campaign. Finally, Long Island Audit's Unlawful Arrest and Constitutional Rights campaign took seventh place with a $10 donation. For the month, the 7 campaigns took in a total of $4,577. Lane Myers has hearing to determine if he can livestream from jail is scheduled for 4:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll be simulcasting the hearing on our YouTube channel.
Journalism in Crisis. Both ReallyCoolSite.org's daily newspaper and our daily newscasts are funded by your continuing donations and what we make from our YouTube AdSense revenue each month. If you'd like to contribute to help us keep the lights on, eating, keeping the cats fed and writing news stories to feature on both the newspaper and newscast each day, we do have a GoFundMe. As real American and true protector of the First Amendment, Lane Myers has made multiple threats to sue us in recent days. Portions of all donations may also go towards fighting any possible future lawsuits. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch our entire videos, like, share, subscribe and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in.
Lane Myers capitulates. Offers to take plea deal? YouTube users, please click the text link in the description to see our full chart breaking down today's fundraising activity. In what may prove to be an extended April Fool's gag, Lane Myers entered Monday's court hearing to determine if his communication privileges in the Pima County Adult Corrections Facility would be limited with a cheery, positive attitude and a seeming new respect for the judicial process and those involved. Stop smirking. It was April Fool's Day after all. According to our courtroom reporter, Myers saw a diminished crowd compared to his Friday hearing, as only Myers' wife/girlfriend and the tall man who had to be told to get off his phone at the last hearing were present in court for the hearing. Before the hearing began, a woman identified as Myers' wife/girlfriend attempted to give a pair of glasses to Myers' advisory attorney, William Parvin. Parvin was reminded by prosecutor Rachel Stiles that he needed to submit the glasses to the Pima County Adult Corrections Facility before Myers could have them. Parvin was less than thrilled at that news, as it would mean another trip to the jail. As prosecutor Stiles began to set up her presentation in the minutes before Real, which featured tons of multimedia based on Myers' previous demand to see every moment of the video she was set to share, Myers looked past advisory attorney Parvin and told her that he had agreed to no longer live stream from jail. Stiles didn't get much of a chance to react to Myers as court was called to order, and Judge D. Douglas Metcalf went into a lengthy admonishment of Myers for his previous behavior in court. Metcalf made it clear that Myers needed to follow the court's rules or else his ability to represent himself could be taken away and he could be sent to another courtroom to participate as a viewer via Zoom call. Myers responded to the admonishment by thanking the judge and then went into an apology for his previous behavior. He said that he had voluntarily stopped live streaming and pushed for a verbal agreement, which was accepted by the prosecution, that he would not be live streaming from jail. Everyone seemed surprised at Myers' attempts to be good, as it was in stark contrast to his previous meltdown at Friday's hearing. Myers, however, knowingly disrespected the prosecutor throughout the hearing by calling her by her first name, rather than her honorific and last name. He singled out the prosecutor for this behavior, properly addressing the judge and his attorney throughout the hearing. With the agreement in place, there was a brief discussion about Myers releasing parts of the grand jury testimony and the information obtained through disclosure during his live streams. Myers seemed unaware that his actions were not permitted and that leaking grand jury information could be added as a Class 1 misdemeanor. He agreed to stop the practice. The judge advised both sides that they would be able to combine both sets of charges against Myers into a single case. Myers asked Prosecutor Stiles to do so on his behalf. Stiles agreed to file the motion, indicating to the court that she would include Myers' stance in her filing. Stiles asked to hold Myers' arraignment for his second set of charges in the time they had left in the hearing, but Judge Metcalf was prevented from doing so as the computer system would not let him access the documents he needed to do so. Myers will be arraigned instead on Friday. Myers with prompting from Parvin, brought up settlement conferences. Myers indicated that he would immediately accept any plea deal presented to him, but he had heard Rachel wanted to wait a couple of weeks. Judge Metcalf explained how settlement conferences worked. He said that Myers would be presented with a written offer from the prosecution. A hearing would be held with a different judge, and they'd hash out details of the settlement. Those details would be off record, though the final agreement would be publicly available. Myers then brought up the revelation that the jail had gotten rid of their dedicated law library, instead making that information accessible through the tablets that inmates share. Myers attempted to get extra dedicated time with a tablet each day based on this, but was effectively shut down by Judge Metcalf. The hearing itself was fairly mundane and was in stark contrast to Friday's hearing. There were no protesters on behalf of Myers. A Stringer reporter was in attendance, who hoped the story would be picked up by the national press. Otherwise, it seems like attempts to get media coverage from the local and national news media by Myers and associate Josh Gray have failed. Gray restreamed the hearing on his This Is a Public Service YouTube channel, directing his viewers to download and mail Myers' prepared form letter to media outlets and politicians in hopes they'd intervene in the case. On the fundraising front, Myers brought in a single donation of $100 to his Give Send Go campaign on Tuesday. He won the day, followed by Liberty Troll, who took in $50 for his Support the Fight for Our Constitutional Rights campaign, and Sean Paul Long Island Audit Reyes, who took in $25 for his Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption campaign. Myers is due in court for his arraignment on April 4th, 2025. The next hearing in front of Judge Metcalf is scheduled for April 15th, 2025. And we're back. Remember tonight, at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're bringing a close to the first annual March Brackets thingy to pick the worst auditor ever as Jose Chili de Castro takes on Josh Abrams in the finals. Be there or not, we'll be having fun tonight. Good night, everyone.